Good morning, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Pitchline Chronicles. I'm Uncle Taz. I'm here with Rob and Donald. Joining us today, our special guest, Dane Huber. Dane, how have you been, bro?
I've been amazing. How about you guys? How's your off season been?
Stressful. Uneventful at times.
We got Juan
Trying to
Soto. I'm
rank.
good. I'm all good. Juan Soto's a New York Yankee.
That's
Rob,
it.
I'm right there with you. That's the biggest move that we had to make this year. So,
When it comes to the moves that were made and were not made, what was obviously we could, Soto is the one that we all had to make. Is there a move that we didn't make that you say, that we're thankful that we missed out on him?
thankful we missed out. I'm actually being more and more thankful we missed out on Yamamoto based on some of the stuff that we're hearing, just the durability with the arm. I think we're going to be real happy we didn't end up with that long term of a contract with him.
Yeah. I think if we were willing to give him all that money, I just think that this puts more into the banking, the savings for Soto. So that's where I'm saying it could be a blessing in disguise. It's not going to handcuff him financially into their budget. So that's just how I was looking at it.
Yeah.
But you got some great people coming on into the chat. I want to just give a quick shout out to everybody. We got JJ Giuliani, what's going on? Jonathan, FL Divers, Stephen B, ABX, FJ, Strike Zone NFE is here, Dev Finch. Hope everybody is enjoying their morning. But let's get down to the nitty gritty here. All right. The list for the spring training invitees for the non-roster has been put out. I'm going to pull it up in a minute. When it comes to players that were invited, was there anybody that, when you saw the list, that jumped out at you or what you felt were missing from that should have been invited?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Bring the list up.
Yeah. As far as kids that didn't get invited, I really thought Danny Watson and Jack Neely, who were our two best relievers last year in their system, I thought that they would be getting invited. But all the other names that you wanted to see are there. Your Ben Rices, your Chase Hamptons, your Will Warrens. Caleb Durbin kind of surprises me that he's there just because he finished in Double-A and he doesn't really have much of an offensive profile. I cannot wait to see Chase Hampton this spring. I think he's going to be special. I'm excited to see what Spencer Jones has done over the winter. But that's about it. I mean, the guys that we wanted to see are there, and I think we'll see some other guys later in the spring.
Yeah, Dane. So you reached out to me recently. You were saying that you were really excited about Spencer Jones. Fill us in on what you're hearing about Spence.
There was rumors that he had worked with Judge's swing coach. That was in fact Ben Rice that has been working with him. He went back to Vanderbilt and worked on a 2-strike approach. He worked on adding a little launch angle to his swing. If you go back and look at the batted ball data from last year, he had a little bit of a negative or a low launch angle, which didn't allow him to hit the ball out of the park as much as they wanted. But Jones is also going to get some reps at first base, I was told this year.
Okay.
So the thing with Jones is the swing decisions and the strike zone discipline. If he can get that under control and get his strikeout rate down to about 22%, I think he's a superstar. But we'll still have to see if he's capable of doing that.
So where do you think he projects long term? Because if, say, best case scenario, we re-sign Soto, our outfield's kind of stacked. Especially if you counter that, if you especially bear in mind that Jason Dominguez is due back very soon. So you probably be playing center field. You got Judge right, Soto left, ideally. where would he project if he's gonna be a superstar for the Yankees? Do you see him being a plus first baseman?
No, I think he's going to be our center fielder.
Oh, what about Dominguez then?
Dominguez is a left fielder. Dominguez is not a center fielder after he's probably 22 or 23. He's too big, too thick. Jones is a plus runner. He's got, I think, the third fastest sprint speed in all of baseball, so he covers ground like you wouldn't believe. He had one of the top pitchers from Vanderbilt came out and did an interview with Foul Territory the other day and was talking about Spencer Jones saving him 5 home runs just his freshman year in the outfield. So Jones is a very, very special defender in center field, and I think that you're going to see him get some reps at first base. Not his best position, but he'll be able to figure it out.
So what about Soto then? In that case, if we extend Soto, he's not going to be a DH for their whole time.
I think he and Judge have to split time at DH. And again, that would be next year, not this year. But that if you want to keep Jones and Dominguez on the roster, they're probably going to have to do away with Stanton.
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Yes, I was saying the other day they might need to give him the Ellsbury treatment and just try to limit his availability one way or another. And it sounds shitty to do that, and do it and play it dirty, but this is a business, and the business in baseball is to win.
It is. You can't have a guy making $27 million a year hitting under 200 and only playing about half the games that he's supposed to. It's just not a recipe for getting World Series titles.
Now, Rob, let's get your take on this.
I think we got to wait and see what happens with Stanton this year. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on him. I understand it. If he's injured again and has another terrible season, they might have no choice but to just, eat money and let him go. But if he has another season kind of like 2022 where, the power's still there, and even if the average is a little bit lower, I just want him, if he's healthy, then that's the big thing, that we know he's going to be productive, in my opinion. So if he's still giving you 25 to 30 plus home runs a year and he's still driving in runs, you're not going to cut that unless he's just absolutely a liability. So if he's more like last year's Stanton, you might see that again. But if he's still on the roster, I think the only option is to put Spencer Jones at first base, because you're not taking Soto out of the outfield. You're not taking Judge out of the outfield. And if you still have Stanton, that's your DH. So you kind of have no choice. That's what we were talking about with Maz's article. And I know Dane saw that as well, because obviously he was on NYYU. We had a conversation about it. That might be the only option if Stanton's still around. Now, if Stanton is gone, then, yeah, you could probably split Judge and Soto around in the DH role. Maybe just transition Judge to DH. But he's also going to be, 33 next year? He's not necessarily broken down. So I think you might have a couple of years, maybe 3 years, 4 years max, that Judge might have to become a full-time DH. So again, you're kind of juggling around with so many scenarios that for right now, the best option would be to get Jones those reps at first and utilize him as a Cody Bellinger type, like Bob suggested. But ideally, he is your center fielder because he's that athletic. But if the option is to keep all those bats in the lineup at once, you might not have no choice but to put him at first base.
That's interesting. And with the whole thing with Spencer Jones, can we just admit that this is a smart move by the Yankees, making sure that he did make the invitee list, with all the speculation from our shows on YouTube and the fan base in general, because this is a guy that we kept saying, don't move him. It's almost like they heard the narrative, but like, all right, let's show them what they're asking for. It's almost like with Volpe. We all wanted him. He had to make the opening day roster, and they heard the noise and they took care of it. Dominguez, we got to see Dominguez, in the spring and going into the season last year. I'm like, just let him start. Let him start the season too. Why not? You know that what didn't happen. It wasn't an option at that point. Realistically, you know, just because I want it doesn't mean it makes sense. Well, we could have the same situation with Jones, where it's like, all right, now we see what now it proves our point of why he's been so touted as a prospect.
So, Dan, I've got a question here from
again, but
Damien.
like Steven brings it up. It's kind of
Got a question from Damien here. Hey, Dan, quick question. Teacher Man was on an interview and explained he has been working with a Yankee who happens to be Judge's height and left hand. When asked if it was Jones, he would not agree. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it was not Spencer Jones. It's Ben Rice that has been working with Judge as swing coach.
Ben Rice. Is he another one that you would have high expectations for?
I have very high expectations for Ben Rice. I just don't know where the fit is going to be. This is a guy that hit 324 last year in a pretty limited sample size with 22 home runs.
Wow.
If you listen to pitchers from the through to him all year, like Zach Messenger, one of his teammates from earlier last year, he said that he's got the best strike zone discipline of anybody in the system. He saw him take 17 walks in 1 week. Rice does not. Yep. He does not expand the zone. He does not chase pitches. He does not get himself out. And when he
sounds
makes
like the ideal Yankee, right?
Yeah, pretty close. But again, he's a catcher, first baseman. He's not going to be a better catcher than Austin Wells defensively. He's got a better arm than Wells, but he doesn't have the better overall defensive package behind the plate with the game calling, receiving, that kind of stuff. So I think he's going to end up at first base. But then you have the question of Jones or Rice.
Exactly. Good problems to have.
They are.
It almost seems like Ben Rice is putting him in the silently in the conversation of a non-tradable prospect. That's the way he's looking right now.
Kind of. You got to remember the thing with Rice. He's already 25 though, so he's a much older prospect than Jones. You could definitely see him have a very, very big first half and end up untradeable and be the plan to be our first baseman in 2025. We just have to see what happens over the course of this year.
Has it taken him a little while to get going? Because why is he so old at this stage?
He went to Dartmouth, 4-year graduate at Dartmouth, missed the COVID season, and then he spent 2 years working out. He's only been in the system for 2 years, so and he was a really late. I think he was a 14th round pick out of college. So
makes sense.
Yeah, it's really straight. We might have to take that into account with if they went to college, the COVID year where everything was just shut down. So with certain guys, you have to take a deeper look and see what the situation was, like with Ben Rice, of why they're at the age they are and still at that level. That's something that we need to keep in mind, though, too.
Yeah.
Rob?
I think with the COVID year, actually, I think that's why I want to talk about Dominguez for a second. I think that's why I'm even more excited about Dominguez because, he also missed that COVID year. And he didn't look like he missed a beat when he came up last season. So that's why I'm really excited to see what he can do. But as for Ben Rice, I agree. We kind of have two kids in our system that can be the potential first baseman of the future, assuming we keep what we have on the roster right now. So the Yankees have options, which is something that we haven't been able to say for a while, because I feel like first base might be one of our weaker positions in the system. But now you got two names that could potentially be the fill-in for Rizzo immediately. And we also can't forget that we still have DJ LeMahieu on the roster that could potentially move over to first if needed next year if they want to get some of these other infielders up. So I love what our system is right now. It's so full of talent. It may not be the best in baseball, but they've got 6 top 100 guys according to Baseball America. A lot of other sites are ranking these system very high. It might be our best that we've had in a very long time. And there's just so many names to be excited about. And Ben Rice is one of them. So whether or not he's the future at first base, it could play a little bit of catcher as well. And again, a lefty bat with some pop. I mean, that's what we love at Yankee Stadium. So I'm just excited for what we have. Like, there's so many names like that are even not even on this list that Dane mentioned earlier, pitcher wise, and I don't even see Barclay's name on here, and I want to see what he can do. So, I mean, there's so many names out there, and I love our system. That's why I'm really excited about this year and the future of this team, because they're kind of doing it right. They are trying that all-in approach, even though they've missed out on some players. They could still make another move, but they're also preparing that if it doesn't go their way this year, they have a contingency plan in place to kind of build it up for the next 5, 10, 15 years going forward.
Absolutely. I agree. This is by far the deepest that I've seen the farm system in 20 years. And it's not really close. There's one of the lower levels are even more talented than our upper levels. We had 6 FCL All-Stars and the MVP that are just going to be graduating to A-ball. And a lot of those kids are some of our best talent in the system. It's just a really, really exciting time in the Yankees farm system right now. They have some incredible talent.
Yep. Yeah, it's Chase Hampton's the other one that I was looking at. I was like, all right, I was happy to see that, he's on the list. The other one that I saw, I know Misowicz. I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong. There's a guy that Roberts brought up that he likes. So,
Josh.
Yeah.
One of our writers, Greg, who does all of our prospect writing, he's very high on Mesowicz and thinks that he can actually be something this year. I don't have that same confidence, but I sure hope he's pretty good.
What about Yerry De Los Santos?
I'm really excited about him. He's got a big fastball, or big two-seam, excuse me, that moves a ton. He's a slider guy. He's just a perfect guy for Matt Blake to get his hands on and refine his pitch package and improve him. I think you're going to see him a lot this year.
He's one of those names I'm so excited about as well. And that's why I kind of have, I understand a lot of people want to see the Yankees add to the bullpen, but that's why I've been kind of like, I don't really need them to spend $5, $6, $7 million on a relief pitcher, because they've picked up guys like De Los Santos, and even a Nick Birdie and a Dwayne Underwood is a guy that could potentially surprise us. There's always that one name in the spring that was a minor league signing and a guy that stunk in his previous years. Like Underwood was bad the last couple of years, but it would not surprise me in the least if Matt Blake turns him into a weapon out of this bullpen. So I'm perfectly fine with how they went approach the bullpen this year, getting Gonzalez, and then just the other day getting Ferguson from LA as well. I love the way they've done it. They got Matt Gage for nothing and flipped him for a much better pitcher for 1 year, making $2.5 million. Like, they're spending less than they would for Wandy Peralta for 2 lefties and Gonzalez and Ferguson. I think that's fantastic. Our bullpen's better now. And I still agree that I can use a sure thing in the 9th inning, but I'm comfortable with what we have because the way Matt Blake has been able to develop these arms, and we have so many other guys that can step in. I think De Los Santos is a guy that could also be a 9th inning guy if Matt Blake gets his hands on him. That's why I've said his name several times on this show. I love what his stuff, and we got him so early, it kind of got forgotten about, and it was a minor league deal, and he has pretty decent numbers in his early career with Pittsburgh. So I think he's going to be a legitimate weapon for us.
Another one to keep an eye on is maybe Joey Gerber, because he was in the Mariners system back in 2020. Maybe he has an Ian Hamilton type rise. He didn't pitch at all for over 12 months. I guess on one positive that would be really fresh. But yeah, maybe keep an eye on Joey Gerber. Came from the Seattle Mariners system. Pitched 17 games for the Mariners back in 2020.
I think there's 3 guys on that aren't on this list because they're already on the 40-man that you're going to see factor into the rotation or bullpen in a big way this year in Luis Gil, Clayton Beaters, and Yoendry Gomes. I think all 3 of those guys could impact either the rotation or the bullpen, and they're all major league ready right now.
Yeah.
Where does Luis Gil project?
Yeah.
Because he's such a great starter, but the thing with him is his well, A, he's coming back from injury, and B, it's his location. He's got no hit stuff. Do you think that could work as like in the back end of the rotation or back end of the bullpen?
I do. I think it can work in either way. Luis Gil has added a cutter, and he's reworked the grip on his changeup. If you remember when he first came up, his changeup was about 92, 93 miles an hour, and there wasn't as much separation with the fastball. Now he's getting that 8 to 10 mile an hour separation that you want. And if the command has improved with those 4 pitches, he can still start, but he has the arm to end up in the back of a bullpen because he can get up to 101, 102, or even higher, they've said. So Gil could end up in either role very easily.
I like that in a closer role or a setup man role. That was just fantastic. That fastball would play.
That's what I was going to ask, because a lot of people want to see him in the closer role. How do you see his stuff in that spot?
Oh, he's got the perfect stuff for that spot. He's got a wipeout slider. He's got a fastball that he can pump up over 100 miles an hour. He may be a Class A for us, Abdel and Matanzas 2.0, something like that.
I'd take that. I mean, I also made the statement that I don't think that they should put him in that role right away, coming off the injury. Let him, get resettled into the fold, see how he's feeling, see how his stuff is working. Then we'll worry about what inning he's going to pitch.
I would agree with that completely. Just get the kid in the major leagues, get him comfortable again, whether that's in a swing role, whatever it is, and let's figure out where the best place to optimize him is.
I think Beater might be the guy that is going to transition to the bullpen quicker, and Gomes as well, because we saw him last year for a tiny bit and he looked good. So I think those are the 2 guys you might see go to the bullpen almost immediately, but I still want to give Gil another shot as a starter because I feel like his stuff is just too good to not at least see what you have post-injury. Now, if he can't do it, obviously you transition him to the bullpen, but the other name that everyone's been talking about all offseason, we keep hearing about him, you can't move him, he's going to be great, that's Will Warren. He's right up there at the bottom of the list. I think this guy could be one of those players that potentially makes the team out of the spring, depending on how he looks, because I know you've been talking about him a lot and there's a lot of hype there. This is a guy that can give you 150 innings right away because he's already got those innings on his arm from last season. So what are your thoughts and what are your projections for Will Warren this year?
Well, we still over at NYYU, our top 30, we still have him as our number 1 pitching prospect, and there's a reason for that. He's got 120 innings in back-to-back years, so he'll get you 150, 160 innings as the starter this year. As far as what I expect out of him, I think he's very, very capable of being a 3, 4, 5 starter this year and probably pitching to a mid to high 3 ERA. He's a 6-pitch pitcher. The 4-seam sits 95 to 98, and he can dial that up a little bit further. Not his primary fastball. He has an excellent cutter that has ridiculous movement on it. His best fastball is his 2-seam, which sits 93 to 96 and gets some of the best movement on it you've ever seen of any pitcher. It's really an elite sinker. Kylie McDaniels rated his slider as an 80 grade pitch. and you just don't see that very often. It's got up to 42 inches of horizontal break on it. So, I mean, 3.5 feet. He's also got a change up and a curveball. I think he's going to be really good. He's never going to be a top of the rotation starter, but he can be a 3 through 5 and be a really good one.
Yeah, Will Warren is definitely on that list of, you know, let's see what you got, because we don't want to get rid of you.
Right.
You know, but yeah, if those are the projections, then it was a clear choice not to want to move him. What's going on, Acevedo? What's going on, Joan? MH was in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Glad everybody's having a good time in the chat and being very kind. If you want to be kind, hit that like button for Dane here. Let's get these likes up. But when you think of how spring training goes, one of the things we talked about the other day was how to manage your expectations for certain players. Because there's always that one player that becomes like that spring training superstar, but it's just really not up to par to keep up with the grind of the regular season. So how do you manage, your expectations when you see guys like Jones and Warren? We'll use those two as an example with offense and pitching, and those guys that we deemed unmovable at this point. So how do you manage if they do well, but also recognizing that it's just the spot's not right there for them right now?
Can I just say something about the unmovable part?
Yeah.
I don't have Jones or Hampton or Warren as unmovable, untradeable. In the right deal, I would have traded all of them, and that was for Corbin Burns. But
okay, fair enough.
Other than that, the two guys I'm not moving are Arias and Lalane. Those are my only two untouchables in the system. But as far as managing our expectations, I think that you can start to get your expectations high for Will Warren because he is ready. You're going to see him be able to impact that team right away. If Spencer Jones has a great spring, it's kind of like Jason Dominguez last year. He's not going to start the year with the team. There's zero chance unless there's a ton of injuries. You just have to get excited about him and say, hopefully we'll see the kid by July or August.
Are the Yankees done?
Yes.
So with that in mind, are you comfortable with Nestor Cortez being our fifth starter? As
I don't know. I don't know that you have to be so comfortable with excuse me. I'm still battling cold, guys. Sorry.
It's all right. It's Seattle, I understand.
Yeah, no kidding. It's always cold and rainy here. I always have a stuffy nose. Nestor Cortez was our best starter 2 years in a row. You got to give him an opportunity to prove if he's healthy or not. If he's not, then you have a Warren, or I'm a really big Yoendrys Gomes fan as a starter. I think either of those two guys could take his spot, but Nestor pitched below a 3 ERA 2 years in a row. He was hurt last year. You got to give him the opportunity.
Do you think the pitch clock affected him because he's such a guy that relies on arm angles and different types of wind-ups, and the pitch clock kind of rushed that delivery? Or do you think it was just the fact that the league cottoned on to his cutter inside?
I think people caught out into his cutter inside. He wasn't being able to command that pitch last year. It was just the movement was flat on it. So it was like a batting practice fastball. I don't think it was a pitch clock. I think it was him being worn down from the previous 2 years of pitching way more than he ever had, being a big factor. I'm looking forward to seeing what you get from Nestor this year. If he can be anywhere close to what he was in 21 or 22, that rotation looks a whole lot better than what.
Facts.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he take his 2022 season and if his ERA jumps up a whole point, that's still like a low threes or mid threes. You're going to take that every day of the week. So I'm not ready to give up on him either. I think had they added a Blake Snell, let's just say, then you'd probably see Nestor get moved to the bullpen or even traded because you don't usually carry 3 lefties in the rotation. But I mean, for now, I'm fine with the rotation. I really want to see what we can get from Nestor Cortez. And even Clark Schmidt, I feel like Schmidt's a guy that might be better for the bullpen, but since you already got that full year as a starter, you got to ride with it now. And, those are the 2 guys at the bottom of the rotation that could be replaceable. We're not going to replace Stroman, Rodon, or Cole. Obviously, you're not replacing Garrett Cole with anybody in baseball, but those 2 guys at the bottom are the ones that if they struggle or if Cortez is hurt, and also we can't forget, he got hurt like immediately last year, and that lingered on. He was pitching through it, and that's why he couldn't get through that 3rd turn through the order because he was great. He was like his old self for the first 2 turns, and then once that 3rd turn through the order started, he could not get it done. So it's clear that injury that he suffered early on, and plus the innings he had the previous 2 seasons that he wasn't used to, lingered on him. So if he's got a clean bill of health, and that's the case for a lot of our pitchers, or 2 of our pitchers, Rodon and Cortez, if they're good to go, you got to expect good things from them. And I think if Cortez doesn't have to be that 2022 guy, that's the thing. He's going to be your 4th or 5th starter. If he's just more, give us 5+ innings, have an ERA in the mid, even to high 3s, you're going to take that every day of the week from your number 5 guy. So the expectations are lower for him. And I think that's actually a good thing because now he can kind of ease back into being that guy that he was just even 2021, because like you said, he saved our season essentially from that rotation because Cole was kind of struggling a little bit at times in 2021. And, we had injuries up and down the rotation. Same thing with 2022. Garrett Cole's regular season in 2022, he was kind of getting lit up here and there. He turned it around in the playoffs, but Nestor Cortez was above and beyond. He was our best starter. So I'm not ready, just like you said, I'm not ready to give up on him. And he's the guy, though, that probably has the shortest leash in this rotation, though, if that makes any sense.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I think he has to have the shortest leash because of the injuries.
Yeah, I think he absolutely has to have the shortest leash, and he's also the most replaceable in the 5th starter spot because there's so much depth behind him.
What have you heard about the talks with Corbin Burns? Were we really in on it, or was that kind of come out as a surprise that he landed where he landed?
I was told they were in on it, but the guys that they wanted were guys the Yankees were not going to give up. The Brewers have the number 2 or number 3 farm system in baseball. They even have a better farm than us. So they really went after what they wanted, not what they needed, because they really don't need much, which is why they went with DL Hall. They really, really like that kid. We don't have a comparison to give up in our system right now. I was told, I do not know this is fact at all, but I heard they wanted Arias and Lalane and like a Kiner Delgado, and there's just absolutely no way you can make that trade.
No way.
You couldn't. Okay, but we're kind of stacked with the middle infield.
Yeah, but Roderick Arias is going to be Francisco Lindor with more speed, better power, and a better arm. He's going to be a 280. Well, he has the ceiling to be a 280, 30, 30, 30 guy. You just don't trade Arias. And Lalane is the most special pitching prospect we've had since Andy Pettit, probably, if not even before. Kid's 6'7", throws 99 from the left-hand side, has a 60 grade fastball, a 65 to 70 grade slider, a 60 grade changeup, and he already has 60 grade command at that age. He's a young Randy Johnson, and you just don't trade that.
Yeah, there are some names that you probably have to hold on to. And that's what I was saying the other day. Like, because they got only 2 players and a pick from Baltimore, and they already have, they don't really like our guys aside from those 2, they probably would have asked for a 3rd prospect and then maybe even a 4th or a pick as well. the Yankees were not going to give up 3 more pieces of their system plus a potential pick for a rental. As good as Corbin Burns is, I would take him in a heartbeat. I was talking about him all offseason, but they've already given up so much of their system and so much depth for 2 rentals in Soto and Verdugo. And you could even put Ferguson on that list as well. He's another 1-year guy. Are they going to make another move for a rental pitcher? If that is the case, then it would probably be a Shane Bieber, who would cost you significantly less than Corbin Burns. So, and there was a lot of factors into it why the Brewers didn't want what the Yankees had that's more major league ready. And like you mentioned, DL Hall, we don't have that. We just don't have that lefty, that power lefty, if you want to call him that, in our system. The closest thing with major league experience is Clark Schmidt, and he's a righty who was so-so last year. So, and it just, that's why they took the Baltimore deal, and we were in on it according to Martino, but like you said, the price was too high. And I think if they're considering Arias that much of an untouchable, he's a guy that could shoot through the system quickly as well, kind of like Dominguez did. So it might not be too long before we see Arias up here.
No, it's not going to be that long before you see Arias. Baseball America just did a write-up on him and had him as the highest ceiling talent that we have in our system, including Jason Dominguez. They believe he's going to be better. So he was clearly the number 1 player in the FCL last year, even though he got injured. The kid is just special. And I wouldn't trade him for 1 year of anybody.
Yeah, I think that's why Damien's comment here, and shout out to everybody in the comments. We're paying attention. But, EX here, he's like, Yankees have 40% of their roster walking this year. We have to watch what we trade. And that was something that I also said throughout the offseason. Don't unload everything in the offseason. You need to save some ammunition for the trade deadline, injuries, because it's going to happen. As much as we want to believe that our players will stay healthy all year, in any sport on any team, that's just not a realistic viewpoint to think that we're just going to coast through without a problem. So with guys like Arias, what does that mean for Peraza? Is Peraza kind of becoming, he's like the new Florial, where they want to give him a chance, but they don't know where they're going to fit him. So what's your view on, with Arias taking a faster route? Like, how do you see it playing out?
I have no idea what they're going to do with Peraza. There's nothing that makes sense to me about that situation. This was a kid that hit over 300 in real games that mattered, and then he lost his job in the spring training. And yeah, Volpe won that job last year, but it shouldn't have been a competition, in my opinion. But Peraza has added about 10, 15 pounds of muscle this winter. I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures. He's jacked. Maybe he's bulking up to play third base. I really don't know. They could be keeping him all year in case they let Gleyber Torres walk and Jared Cerna or Durbin or Vivas hasn't taken that next step and isn't ready to step in at second base in 2025. I have no idea what they do with Peraza. I really don't at this point. And it's frustrating.
I completely agree with you, man. This is frustrating for me because I'm a big Peraza fan.
I'm a huge.
Yeah, like he's one of the guys that I've just loved. I actually kind of prefer him to Volpe. No disrespect to Volpe. Volpe's
I
great,
do too.
I like Peraza more because I think he's a much better infielder, much better defender, much better range, much better arm, absolute rocket arm. He's played perfect shortstop, and the Yankees dismiss it like it's right. Like I've never seen him make a bad play in shortstop. He makes some incredible plays. Some plays on his ass. He's throwing freaking darts to first base. Like he's an absolute animal at shortstop, and he's played great third base. And we gave him no opportunity. He just were like, "Oh, go play third base," and he picked it up, and he was just fantastic. And the Yankees just treat him like, I don't know, like yesterday's dirt. Like I don't understand it. And then you can make the argument, okay, well, he hasn't blown us away offensively, but you saw when you give him consistent at bats, he gets consistent results. He started to pick it up as the season went on without the pressure of if you don't do amazing in your 4 at-bats, you're going to get sent down to AAA. You know, I mean, once you give him a consistent run, he's starting to turn it around. But there's such a negative vibe from the organization about him, and I just don't understand it. And I don't love the situation he's in right now, where he's basically going to be kind of a utility guy behind Gleyber Torres, Volpe, and DJ LeMahieu. I mean, DJ LeMahieu is going to be roaming around the infield as well. Volpe is going to be absolutely locked in at short, and Torres is going to be locked in at second. So how much of an opportunity is he really going to be getting? I just don't understand it.
I really think that he's most likely to start the year as the shortstop in AAA.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but I think he only has that. Is it Peraza that has like that one option left?
He's
so
got
if they
one
call him
option
back up,
left.
then that's it.
Right.
Yeah, they gave him a 4th option, so this is it. Like, that's why I kind of hated that he got it. Everyone was kind of like, "Oh, that it increases his value now for other teams," but the Yankees haven't moved him yet. So unless they move him, I don't see who's trading for him at this point. As I just want to see him get a chance. You know, we've all been talking about it since 2022. Like, call the kid up when he was ready, and they waited till September and they didn't play him, until the last 2 weeks. And what did he do? He had like an 8-something OPS. He was hitting 300. He was hitting the cover off the ball, and then they sat him for IKF again. It was ridiculous. And the same thing last year. I think it made sense because Volpe won the job. So, but you should, once Donaldson got hurt like 5 games in, why was Peraza not playing every day? And even when he started hitting, I think he was on like a 4 or 5 game hitting streak. They sent him down, or they benched him. And I was like, this is what I don't understand why they're doing this to this kid, because they kept him out of several trades and they don't use him. And it's just so puzzling. And it's what we were talking about on Twitter a couple of months ago. And we just can't figure out what they're doing with him, what they want to do with him. And because of that, teams are not going to be rushing to trade for him as much as I think we match up well with the Marlins, because they need a shortstop and Peraza could easily start for them. They may not see it anymore because the Yankees haven't given him that shot. And it's more than likely that he is starting in AAA. And that's why the Yankees are interested in Urshela right now, where we've heard they're interested in Tony Kemp, because why have Peraza sitting on the bench and rotating around when you can just use that 4th option to your advantage? I hate it. I'm not advocating for it, but they're kind of putting the pieces to that puzzle together now. There's interest in Urshela. There's interest in Tony Kemp, and they got a 4th option for Peraza. Maybe that's how they try to build his value back up, but just start him at 3rd. There's no reason DJ should be starting right now. As much as I think he can be good again, like he was second half last year, he should be your rotator. He can play 1st, he can play 2nd, he can play 3rd. Peraza can be an absolute stud at 3rd base and easily transition to 2nd next year when Torres is gone. And that can free up 3rd base for Arias in the next 2 years or whatever. So, and also they have Vivas that can also play 2nd, and Cerna's coming up as well. And Peraza is a guy that can handle that switch easily because he's already done it at the major league level. Whereas Volpe, I don't see him making the transition to 2nd or 3rd easily at this point, because he was locked in at short every game last year. So I don't know what they're doing with him. And it really is puzzling because the potential's there, and he's only 23. Like, it's not like he's 27 and he's been seasoned in the minors for all these years, and they're just now trying to find a spot. He's 23. He's still got 10 plus years of really, really good baseball ahead of him. And you haven't even gotten close to his ceiling. So it's really annoying how they've treated him. And it is a Florial situation, because Florial was once our top guy and they treated him like just some journeyman. And that's the word that we used a lot last year, was they're treating these kids like journeyman players. They're treating Peraza and they treated Florial like a Jake Bowers and a Billy McKinney. And that's just bad management by an organization. And they got to find a spot for him or trade him. That's what I've been saying. Either you start the kid or you trade him, because having him on the bench just does nothing for him.
Well, that's the problem, though. It's the biggest mistake so far this season, as far as positioning, was announcing that LeMahieu was the 3rd baseman. That's where everything went completely out of control, because it screwed up everybody's expectations for Peraza. Because now we're not going to see we're not going to even get a chance to see the growth that he made in the offseason.
Right.
They should have just put Peraza at 3rd and left LeMahieu as a utility guy to limit him, to keep him healthy. and platoon with Rizzo. They totally screwed that up.
I agree with you guys. I don't understand the Peraza thing to save my life. I've never seen another top 50 prospect in all of baseball be treated that way. He would have been starting 2 years ago for just about any other team. It just does not make sense to me the way that went. But I wanted to mention one thing about Volpe and Arias. When Arias gets here, Volpe's going to go to second base because he makes Peraza look like IKF at shortstop. Arias has got a better arm than Peraza, and it's not close. He's a better defensive player. He's a flat stud at shortstop, and they won't move him off that position.
Yeah, I think, I was very against moving him from short. But the more you have to, you have to take a step back and be like, I didn't want them to make any adjustments in the season. If you made the decision to play him at short, unless he was completely falling on his face, just let him ride it out and grow. But the other, it really, you could even swing, rewind this all the way back to not moving Torres 2 years ago.
Yep.
That kind of made the situation, I think that was the starting point of the whole situation.
Hal said he wanted the middle infield of the future to be Volpe and Peraza.
Yeah, so then make it happen. They could do it.
Guys, I could sit here and go round and round about the Peraza thing. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Pete and I have been screaming about it for 6 months that it made no sense. I have no idea what they did, why they don't like the kid, why they haven't given him a real opportunity when he played so well in his first taste of the major leagues. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's also would be unfair. It kind of also sucks for Volpe because he did have a phenomenal spring before he got the call.
He did.
We were sitting. You have to start him. You have to start him. And it's like everybody said, it's that shiny new toy. It's like, all right, what other package is still wrapped in, that we can see what it is. And it's a never-ending cycle. We do it every year. Doesn't matter what the prospect is. That's just being a fan, and and what we do is when we're taking deeper dives into things, like, well, what about that guy over there? I like this guy, but is that guy going to get me over the hump and get me a deep playoff run?
Right.
We're constantly doing it, and but there are players you feel bad for that it happens, and Volpe is one of those guys.
But the thing is with Peraza is that he had every opportunity to play last year, and they just didn't give it to him. Like, there's no reason, and I mean no reason that he should not have been play. Like, how do you play Josh Donaldson over him? In any scenario, how do you play Josh Donaldson over and then use that as an excuse as to why you couldn't start him? Why you didn't move Gleyber Torres when you had the chance to move him? I love Gleyber. I don't think you trade him now, but because the opportunity passed. You should have traded him at the deadline. And you should have had the infield of the future right there in a season that was lost, but the Yankees did not want to admit the season was lost. They had every opportunity, and they used every excuse in the book to not do it. So that's what I'm most
thank you,
upset
Acevedo.
Super chat.
So if Torres is moved mid-season, only means we're out on our pitchers are down. We're doing bad. Peraza is everybody's starting third baseman, but not the cash. That's fact.
Yeah.
But thanks again, Acevedo.
Thank you, man.
No, this whole thing. Go back.
Oh, no, cut me off for a super chat anytime. If once you see that super chat, cut me off. Go right to it.
Them's the rules.
Them's the rules.
I do feel bad for Peraza, but like you said, Dane, they made that statement that the infield is the middle infield is going to be Peraza and Volpe, or Volpe, wherever you want to play him. But that was going to be our middle infield. To what Rob was starting to say, last year was the time to do it.
Yeah, it was.
It was a failed season. So why not? Why didn't we see more of the prospects being called up and given a shot? Why were we riding with with Donaldson when we had Peraza right there. Just, what was the risk? Not to make the playoffs? We didn't do that with the big contract guys.
Right.
So it was just, it's asinine how they were. Last year was just an embarrassment, which is why I think we're seeing a more aggressive Hal this year.
It was ass backwards. Everything they were doing was
Yeah.
ass backwards. I mean,
Yeah.
I was screaming it as soon as Judge broke his toe. It made no sense to go down the way we were going because there was no upside to each game we're playing. Each game we were playing and we were losing, we were learning nothing. You're not going to learn anything from going out with Jake Bowers and these dudes that we were sending out there that had no upside, that were probably not going to have any kind of major league career moving forward anyway. It made no sense to be wasting all these games that we could be valuable learning about our minor league system while we had guys down. And it only took until we were absolutely out of it mathematically for us to give our prospects a chance. And guess what? We made a run. Now, could you imagine had we actually made that decision back in June? I'm not saying we would have made the playoffs, but we would have been a much better team. And at worst, you actually learn something. You learn something about your prospects. Which ones can we count on? Which ones are movable? And that's something that it made no sense to me, and I will never understand it. And it was extremely frustrating for me to watch as a fan. Like I basically didn't watch for 2 months because there was nothing to watch. Why am I going to waste my time watching Jake Bowers and these terrible fucking players that have no future with the Yankees? It was so infuriating. I only started watching when we called up Dominguez because, man, finally they made a fucking decision. Well, actually, for the future.
Yeah.
And I like this comment here from FJ. Where'd he go? So 2 years ago, the Yankees were being trashed even consider removing Torres. Fans are fickle. Well, the problem is some fans don't know how to play chess. They only play checkers. And I was one of them. I didn't want to move him. I'm like, how could you, I wanted him to get all the rust off from that shortstop year.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if he can get back to what he was before they made that stupid decision with him. And see if this is the guy that we were waiting for. All right, now we can ride with this guy. And in hindsight, maybe we should have, moved him even before last year. Maybe it really was, like I said, maybe it was more 2 years ago. But it would have been too early to project these prospects to justify making that move.
Well, that's what the Yankees did, though. That they made that decision because they passed up on every shortstop in that generational free agent class. Like Corey Seager would have been a perfect New York Yankee. Like even for the money that he's making, he would have been a perfect Yankee. And they said, no, we have 2 kids that are coming up in the next couple of years that are going to be, one of them is going to be the shortstop and the other one's going to be at second. So they passed up on him. They passed up on Correa. They passed up on, I'm glad we did, but they didn't get Baez. They passed up on Simeon. All those names they didn't sign because of those kids that they had coming up. So they finally made a decision. We're going to play the kids, but one of them got passed up. And they haven't used him since. So it makes no sense. And then the thing with Florial is I said it once Judge got hurt, he should have been called up. Instead, they gave the spot to McKinney. And I'm just like, you're going back. Donald said, you're going ass backwards. They had every opportunity. And 2 years ago, the Marlins were trying to get Glaber, but the Yankees didn't want to give up Peraza, I think, in the deal. That's what happened. They didn't want to give up Peraza. So here we are 2 years later. You didn't want to... Yeah, you don't use them. So maybe you should have made that trade and gotten Pablo Lopez. I think that was the deal. It was Lopez for Torres and Peraza. The Yankees said no. So, but now you kind of wish you made that deal because guess what? You're not using Peraza, and Gleyber Torres is probably going to be gone next year because you're not going to pay him when you have 100 more infielders coming up. So these are the things that we talk about with this organization that as good as this offseason has been, you can't help but bring out the past issues because it wasn't that long ago. This was just a season ago, 2 seasons ago, they made that decision and that they said that the middle infield of the future is Volpe and Peraza. And yet here's your opportunity to have that jump started and you didn't take it. because you had a bad season last year, and the only move you made at the deadline was to add a rental relief pitcher when you could have just kind of sold off some of your assets. You cut Bader anyway and got nothing back for him. So just everything was so weird last year, and I'm glad that we're getting away from it, but you can't help but bring up those things because Peraza exemplifies everything that this organization has done, that you just kind of scratch your head and go, what the fuck are they doing? And he's like a big example of that. 23-year-old, former top 3 prospect in the organization, top 50 in baseball, and you're just like, I don't really see a fit. How do you not see a fit? He's played second well. He's played short well. He's played third well. Every test you've thrown at him, he's passed it. And like Donald said, if you give him that opportunity to play every day, the results will come. And we saw that in 2022, and we saw that last year. But every time the results started to come, they sat him. And it's so mind-boggling how you treat somebody like that. It's like, why say he's untouchable? And then when he's here and actually shows you what he can do, you say, I don't like him. It makes no sense. It's really, really weird.
It is. I think one of the biggest factors to the Yankees' success this year is smarter moves from the front office. I mean, not being so involved in bringing up 4A players. We saw so much of McKinney and Bowers and Willie.
Callahan.
Yeah. And then they just brought Greg Allen back, another 4A guy. I would rather they avoid those kind of moves this year. And if they're going to give somebody a shot, give some of the actual kids you drafted, signed, and developed opportunities this year, not more 4A role players.
I think we were the only organization in all of baseball that would actually make that decision where we were. I don't think any other team would go with 4A players instead of people you've actually drafted. It just made no sense.
Yeah. No, it's like you could almost see the writing on the wall with Greg Allen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if there's an injury, that rather than bring up Jones, if he's he could be killing it. You know, like he has been. They'll bring Allen up before Jones.
100% they will.
That's how dumb they are.
They even structured his contract. He gets more money based on major league at bats. He's going to be a factor in that major league roster.
Yeah. Right. I want to take this opportunity to ask a couple of questions before we close it up. First of all, let's talk something positive. Caleb Ferguson, fastball, slider / cutter kind of guy. Really successful in LA. Good age, like 26, 27. And he's never really had a bad year. Walk year, so he's probably going to try his best to earn a contract. And we saved money because I think you were only paying him like 2.4, and we've let go of Wandy, who's like 4 mil. Right. So we've saved a bit of money that way. And really good career. And it was a smart GM maneuverability. So for all Cashman does to absolutely blow my mind with roster building, which you can't do. You can't build rosters, but what he can do is pull off these heists, which he did with Caleb Ferguson. That was a heist, and I have to give him credit where credit is due. That was smart work. Dane, what did you think?
I love that move. Ferguson is a guy that I originally wanted in the Trey Sweeney deal. He's upper 90s with a fastball. He's got a really good cutter, and the slider is filthy. He's can open, he can be middle relief, and there's some talk about him being able to handle back of bullpen roles. He was in a phenomenal pickup. I think we're going to be really happy with that move.
Where does he project? Because he doesn't really get lefties out, though. His numbers aren't great against lefties, but he's more of a reverse splits guy. Where do you see him?
I think you could see him handle a number of roles, kind of like the Ian Hamilton role that we saw last year. Fill in where you need him. The stuff, I don't know that once he works with Matt Blake, I think that we're going to see him be even better than what we're hoping. Blake has just a way of refining pitches and making relievers better. And I think we're going to see that with Ferguson as well.
Rob, give me your thoughts on Ferguson.
Can't go wrong with it. I mentioned it earlier in the show, and I messaged our group chat how good of a trade this was. And I even, I talked to Lynn on Twitter about it. Like, it was such a good move because she was puzzled. Why are you picking up players on waivers and then getting rid of them so quickly? This is what teams do in the offseason. They pick up players on waivers and they're expendable. Like, we picked up Castillo and he was the one that got DFA'd when we picked up Gage, and then now we flipped Gage for Ferguson. You could have kept Matt Gage. You really could have, and used him as a weapon this year. But they saw an opportunity to get a proven major league pitcher that's been doing it for the last 3-4 years now successfully. He doubled his innings last year, doubled his strikeouts. He actually started a few games, and I think he had a save or 2 or 3 saves last year. So the versatility's there. He can give you innings. He can get you outs. He can get you big outs. And he cost you $2 million, $2.5 million, which technically is 5, but that's brilliant. It's less than what these guys are making. You're seeing Wandy Peralta get nearly $5 million per year. You're seeing other relief pitchers like Stevenson got 11 or whatever it was. Like, these relief pitchers are signing for crazy amounts of money, and you just got a really good lefty for 1 year, but at a fraction of the price. That's where Brian Cashman excels. And I think you put him with Matt Blake, he'll be better this year. He might be more like he was in 2022, where he had like an ERA of below 2. So he might be like a low 2, mid 2 ERA guy with us. And that's great. So we've added 2 lefties for less than the price of Wandy Peralta. And they're both good pitchers. Gonzalez and Ferguson are good pitchers. Our bullpen's better now. And you can't go wrong with making your bullpen better by giving up Matt Gage, who could have either been a potential weapon for us, or now he's the Dodgers on the 40-man, wherever they're going to put him. But we got Ferguson, and it's a great move. I cannot complain one bit about that trade.
Yeah, it made sense for the Dodgers because they needed to free up room, and also he didn't have any options, so it made sense for the Yankees. Uncle Taz, what did you think of the move?
I think it's a great move. Yeah, I saw one comment, whether it was in one of the chats or on Twitter, that that move had the Rays all over it for a pitcher. And that boosted my confidence even more, because usually if the Rays trade for a pitcher, there's a miracle in the works with how these guys can just outperform everybody else. So it feels like we stole a good arm from the Rays. I feel good, but no, I think money wise, it was definitely the right move. He's got the extra year of control. His numbers are really good. The lefties maybe a little bit of a concern. But everybody had, every player, every pitcher, every hitter, they're going to have those situations that they might not be at their best. It's how they get through it. And I think Ferguson's one of those guys. He can navigate through those tough hitters. So I think the Yankees definitely hit one on this one.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the bullpen now.
You're more comfortable?
One last thing.
Would you say you're more comfortable? You're not comfortable.
I'm more comfortable with the bullpen.
Okay.
Now. One last thing. We can't have a podcast without asking about Blake Snell. I came across an interesting tweet here from @MGiselle4, Angry Mike Yankees. Scenario: Yankees can sign Snell, but only if Glaber gets dealt. Would you do it? I say yes. What would you guys do? Let's ask Dane first.
Well, if you sign Blake, anything that he makes, it's double plus 10%. So if you pay him $30 million, it's going to cost you $63 million this year. So that's why I don't think that's going to happen. The other reason is that you'd lose your second, third, fourth, and fifth round picks plus $2 million in international free agency money. They're not signing Blake Snell.
Damn it. Uncle Tax.
Man, Killjoy, Dane, Killjoy. No, I look, financially, it doesn't make any sense for them to bring him in. I don't even know if he. I would still try to. I would take a flyer on it. Maybe try one of those deferral deals and try to limit, the salary for the year and stretch it out. Maybe they could structure it differently where it's more backloaded. So I think they can get creative. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. They could.
They very well could, but I think the biggest factor in there is the draft picks and the money, especially since it would be 2 years in a row they would lose draft picks and money.
Yeah.
That's going to end up depleting the bottom of your farm system. When you lose international free agency money, we lost 3 top 50 players this year because we let Rodon, or we signed Rodon. So if you lose $2 million in international free agency money, that's a whole lot, and that's one of the top players that they have signed last year. And as we've seen, the Yankees do their best work in international free agency. The kid that they just signed this year, Francisco Valario, he's got better tool grades than Jason Dominguez does. They think he's going to be in the major leagues before he's 21. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, you just got to balance what you have in the farm system, and you have to pick and choose the years that you go after those players attached to picks and money.
All I will say to that, though, is we've got Soto for 1 year that we know of. So we're all in.
Absolutely.
How can we be we can't play both sides. You're either all in or you're not. And
right.
This is your window right now. With Aaron Judge, with Soto, we don't know if we're going to extend Soto or not. I hope we do. But while we know we got him for 1 year, doesn't make sense to be playing this game. Also, another point, we still offered him a massive deal, which he turned down, which we would have given up international money anyway. So surely the Yankees can still jump back in.
It wouldn't have cost as much because they hadn't assigned Stroman yet. If that money doesn't affect, if you don't sign Stroman, the tax doesn't count for double, and there's other ways around that.
Right.
Blake Snell, I just don't see happening because of the costs, both in picks and dollars. But I'm with you. You only have Juan Soto for 1 year. I would have gotten Burns. I'd still like him to investigate Bieber. The guy I really want's Edward Cabrera.
Preach. That's Rob's boy. Are we in on Cabrera?
We have been, but the problem is that they don't really view Peraza as a shortstop, and that's the biggest issue.
Well, that's their problem because he is a shortstop.
Yeah. They have been trying to work deals with the Marlins, and there's some that would really surprise you. They've been trying all winter. It just isn't coming together.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, it's good to know that they are actually having these conversations. Are they still having these conversations? Do you think there's still an avenue where they try and add another starter before spring training with the Marlins?
I absolutely do. I think that they have catchers that they have to move. They've got 5 of them on the 40-man plus Ben Rice. I think you're going to see at least 2 get traded.
Okay.
They have bullpen depth that they can trade, and then they have a ton of kids that they can move. But I just think it's more likely to happen in trade because it's not going to cost you so much in terms of dollars and assets.
No, the trade market's the way to go right now. I think the free agency is I don't think it's strong enough to even, with the exception of Snell and Montgomery at this point. There's really Bellinger. But let's close it out with this question. Why do you think they're still on the market as long as they are?
Great point.
Scott Boras.
100%. Scott Boras.
I mean, it's got to damage it's got to be a black eye on baseball to begin with. Overall, that you have a World Series, a pitcher coming off the World Series win, the NL Cy Young.
Preach.
And you have, a former Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, an MVP, and Cody Bellinger that, Boras is preventing them from signing.
And
I think Monty's still out there because he wants to wait for the Texas deal to clear up with the TV deal. As far as Bellinger and Snell, the original asks, I think he overplayed his hand, wanting 10 and 12 years or 9 and 12 years for those guys. It was never going to happen. But Boras always seems to find a way to get his clients paid. If he doesn't this year, this would be the first year. So I think that you could see Baltimore get really interested on a Blake Snell or maybe even possibly a Cody Bellinger. They're going to find jobs. I just don't know where it will be.
It's a disgrace. I mean, these are some of the best players in the league, and they're not even paid. It's disgraceful. And I really believe that that Boris cost them the Yankee deal. I really think so. I think it was a crazy ask. I think we actually offered, Rob pointed out, we were actually offered above market value for Blake Snell, and it was turned down. I mean, there's nothing more the Yankees could have done. I don't blame the Yankees if they don't make that deal. That's completely on Snell. I mean, you're living in Seattle, but the Mariners have 3 starters pretty much locked in that are really good. And are they going to pay the money to get him, even though he's a Seattle dude?
No, they're not. No, they don't. They are also in trouble with their TV deal. Root Sports is the network up here, and they got all the rights to everything. They're just not getting paid for it, so they just don't have the money to take it on.
That's crazy that with all these TV deals were supposed to, make it easier for owners to want to spend because they have that extra, that supplemental cash flow. And it's just handcuffing them more and more every year. It's crazy. But
it's crazy that 2 reputable organizations, one World Series organization, have TV deals which are hamstringing them and bankrupting them at the moment. It's just crazy. We're talking about the Major League Baseball, and 2 teams are completely penniless right now.
They're hoping Amazon comes in big and saves all those regional sports networks.
Yeah. I think they should have just taken Amazon's deal to begin with and just be done with it.
Yeah.
But Dave, listen, we appreciate you hanging out with us today. Hope everybody did enjoy the discussion. If you haven't already, hit that like button.
You're the man. You're the man, Dean.
Everyone in the chat, like they said earlier, you are everywhere.
Well, I'm just repping NYYU, so.
Yep. And you doing very well.
Thank you, guys.
Are you going to be at the event in April?
Absolutely. I'm meeting everybody for the first time.
All right. So
we got to make this happen.
Yeah.
You better get here, Donald.
I'll make it happen.
But if not, I'm going to fly LA Yankee King and Caputo to your house.
Oh, no.
So it's either you come here or they go there.
What are you doing to me here?
And the only reason I'm calling out LI because LI was so excited. Oh, my boy Dane's coming on. Because he's always like, Dane said.
What?
And where is he? Where's
LI looks up to you very, very much. He calls you his prospect mentor. He uses everything that you've said as a basis to why you shouldn't do a move. Well, Dane said this. Well, Dane said that. So, and a lot of these conversations. Well, no, I understand why he uses you as a reference because you know what you're talking about. However,
we do it too.
he contradicts himself so often with the things he says. And we've gone an entire show, an hour and 15 minutes, essentially, without mentioning him. And now you got me talking about LA Yankee King, who once again, twice yesterday, went on Twitter and mentioned trading DJ LeMahieu. So I told Donald yesterday, I think he's trying to drive me clinically insane, and I think he's succeeding. So I was hoping we didn't get to mention him, but thank you very much for bringing him up.
When I came across that trade where he was going to trade DJ LeMahieu for this, that, and the other, I sent it straight to Rob.
He sent me that last night, too.
Appreciate you hanging out. Sorry about that, Rob. But I had to call him out for not being here. He deserves to be embarrassed. But it's been fun. So if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the sub button, share this out with your friends, your family, the stranger on the corner. This has been another episode of the Pitchlight Chronicles. We will be back Friday morning, 10 a.m. You know where to find us. And where you pitch us your pride and play hard.
Let's go.